So we're in Genesis 1:5. We've done the first four. It's an interesting verse that we start off with. It says in Hebrew, "Vayikra Elokim le'or yom lechoshek bara laila v'hi erev v'hi boker yom echad." And God called to the light, or called the light day, and the darkness he called night. It was evening and it was morning one day. And believe it or not, Rick, the rabbis have a problem with this verse. It's something about this verse that just gets them to writing pages of commentary.
Oh,
There's
wow.
something about this that makes them go, wait a second, what's going on here? Foul, they're calling a foul in the play. The flag is up.
Yeah,
So what's going on?
I call a foul on the play for this translation that I see on there.
So what is your comment? What's your issue with it? What's your flag?
Well,
Explain
like I said, in the version that you gave to go online, the translation it says a first day. You know, there can be many a first days. You know, like a first day at school, a first day at your new job, a first day at whatever.
I was going to say, it's interesting that the translation you're looking at says a first day. And the reason that's interesting is because that's exactly what the rabbi's problem is with this verse, is that the verse does not say first day. It absolutely does not say first day. It says Yom Echad. It says one day. That's what it says, one day. It doesn't say first day. If you go into the next verses, at the end of the day, it always says a second day, a third day, a fourth day. But here in our very first creation, the first day, it only says one day. If we're going to say a first day, it would say Yom Rishon. As we already talked about with Bereshit, if you want to say at the beginning, the very first, you have to say Rishon, not Reshit. So here we have another situation where it refuses to go by usual convention. It should say Yom Rishon if it's going to be consistent with the upcoming verses, but it's not. So that is what their big problem is. That's the foul in the play. They want to know, why isn't it being consistent? There's another problem here. Does anything else stand with you?
But I think I've heard it addressed the way that we think about how days work. It says it was evening and there was morning. You know, most of the times we would say we go through morning, afternoon, evening, then we hit night, then that's the day.
No, you've actually hit upon it. That's actually the problem. How long is evening? Oh, 3 or 4 hours. Okay, well then how long is morning? It doesn't matter if you say 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 hours. It's not 24 hours a day. That's a big problem. We're being told here in the Torah that evening and morning equals one day. That doesn't make any sense. Evening is on one side of the darkness, and morning is on the other side of darkness. The day itself, the light time isn't really counted, or the daytime part, if you want to say. But even then, the dark of night is not counted either. It's only the evening and the morning.
Yeah, well,
so this is
the evening, depending on the evening and the morning, depending where you start, part of the darkness is counted, and part of the day, the light. Because, or time of year, because, sometimes it's dark at, like 4 or 5 at night.
Right, but the problem is that no matter how you think about it, it doesn't add up to 24 hours.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
It's not a day.
Yeah.
It's not a day. You can't say evening, morning, one day. But to some extent, we have to have some sort of agreement on what evening and morning mean. Universally, we understand that evening and morning are these short periods of time on either side. That's sort of sandwiched in between the daytime and the nighttime, where there's more of a mixture of darkness and light. In the evening, you've got a mixture of darkness and light heading towards more darkness. In the morning, you've got darkness and light mixing, heading towards more light. And I think that generally, that's how a lot of people think about evening and morning. So it's a big problem. How in the world can God say evening and morning? Another problem with this, then, we have to ask ourselves a question. Which day are we talking about? Which day of creation are we talking about?
Well, I would say the first day of creation.
The first day of creation. Okay, so let me ask you this question. We typically understand day and night according to when we can see the sun. or see the moon. So my question is, what day of the week, or on what day is the sun and the moon created?
Oh, the sun and moon, well, they're not created for a couple days later, for a few days later.
On the fourth day.
Yeah.
On the fourth day, they're created.
Light and dark, and that's not necessarily from the sun.
But we understand, but that's how we understand day and night, though.
Yeah.
We understand day and night with the sun. If we don't have the sun and we don't have the moon, how can we say that it's daytime or nighttime? Right? So there's another problem on here. So we got another problem here that we're stuck with. Is it daytime or is it nighttime? How do we know daytime, nighttime? There's no sun or moon.
Well, there's light and there's dark.
There's light and the dark, right? Whatever that is, whatever that light and dark is, it's there somehow. Let's try to see if we can solve a couple of these problems. I think an overall solution to the problem is to say that this verse is talking about, although we have a different situation in the first 3 days of creation, we will, from starting with day 4, understand that day and night are determined by the sun and the moon. And so for now, what God has done is he's just created or defined what a day is. It's 24 hours. It's, you have the sun during the day and you don't have the sun during the night. Broad answer that I think answers all the questions to a certain extent. But here's the other thing. Here was an interesting response that I found from the commentators on the question of how can you say evening and morning one day? And that response was, it's always evening and morning somewhere. If it's evening here, right, it's morning somewhere else.
It's early afternoon for me, and it's the middle of evening probably for you right now, with being 9 o'clock at night.
So that's one part of that. Was one of the answers that I thought was very interesting, was that just saying that it's evening and morning on different sides of the world is different times. Yeah. And so therefore you can say evening and morning one day, and it can work because now that the time is expanded. Now it's no longer a local time, evening and morning, and that being anywhere from let's say 6 hours to 12 hours. That's no longer a problem. Now we can say that we've got the whole 24 hours we can account for if we understand it like that.
Yeah.
That there's always day and night, different places. As far as it's saying Yom Echad, the reason why it says Yom Echad and not Yom Rishon, it says one day and not first days for this reason. A first implies there's also a second. But so far, God hasn't created a second day yet. The two things have to exist simultaneously. If there is no second day, you can't call this a first day.
The second day hasn't happened yet, technically, although God's timeless, and to him it could have already happened, but in time it hasn't, so you have to call it one day instead of the first day.
Right, afterwards, right. But the Torah is giving us, doing it from the perspective of the creation account in one sense. So it's saying one day. And the reason I'm going through this very slowly is because you have to have certain ideas in place to be able to understand things that happen later on down the road. For example, if you don't understand that the word bara means something from nothing, and the yotzer, asa, and these terms that we use for creating, other terms for creating mean using a substance that already exists to make something else. If you don't understand that, then things get very strange and confusing later on. And so it's better to establish these things first and then move forward. And throughout all of Scripture, that's the process you should take. That's why I really hope that we're able to do this long enough to where we can get through the entire Hebrew Scriptures. So let's go on to verse 6. Vayomer Elokim yihi rakia toch hamayim vehi mavdil ben mayim lamayim. So it says there, and God said, let there be an expanse, a rakia, in the midst of the waters, and it will separate between the waters to waters. God said, let there be a rakia in the midst of the waters. First off, what's a rakia? What's an expanse? Warner writes in his commentary that a rakia is like you take a piece of metal and you hit it, bang it until it becomes thinner and thinner and thinner. It's taking something and spreading it out, so this becomes a barrier between upper and lower waters. the water above and the water below, I think you can make the argument we're talking about the atmosphere of the earth. The air separates and pushes apart the water that's in the sky and from the water that's on the ground.
Yeah.
Verse 6, let there be a rakia, right? So here you have the idea of using words to create. And so you can have both. You can have words that create and words that destroy.
Yeah.
Okay, so verse 7, ויעש אלוקים את הרקיע ויבדל בין המים אשר מתחת לרקיע ובין המים אשר מעל לרקיע ויהי כן. So it says there, and God made the rakia, and he separated between the waters which were under the rakia and between the waters which were above the rakia. I'm sorry, he used the expanse. I'll use the English.
Yeah.
And it was so.